Has the new mandatory health insurance regulations put a wrinkle in your retirement future in Thailand? If it has, you want to watch this because I got some new news for you. I ran into one of my viewers, a family here.
Hi.
From watching YouTube. Hello.
Hi.
A YouTube viewer, right?
Definitely. I'm a subscriber to his channel.
And you have a family here, but you live in San Diego, right?
San Diego, California.
Do you think it's a good place that you want to retire to in the future?
No, definitely not. It's so expensive.
Oh, San Diego. What about Thailand?
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah?
Try to look for a place to stay, hopefully.
Well,
and
I'm going to post this up on YouTube.
Great. Thank you.
And it's nice to meet you. Take care.
Absolutely.
Okay?
All right.
All right. Think about it. Retire in Thailand.
Absolutely.
Retire cheap.
Yes, sir.
Back Asia. See ya.
See you.
So I want to talk to you today about this mandatory medical insurance. I got some good news for you. But before I go into the news, I need to give you a little bit of a backstory and some caveats. Okay? What I'm about to tell you hasn't been formally announced. So first off, I need to tell you that. But I've gotten this information from very reliable sources, and it should be going into effect in the very near future. Now, having said that, a little bit of a backstory. For those that don't know, if you want to get an O-A visa, which is a visa for the purpose of retirement, in your home country, it used to be the easiest way to go. And you could get that by, you didn't have to have money coming into a Thai bank, you didn't have to have money in a Thai bank. You would just show that you had the funds to fulfill the requirement of the finances, either as income coming in your home country or in an account, an investment account, anything, you'd be good to go. Lately, they said people that are coming from abroad are getting medical treatment and leaving the hospital and going home and never paying for it. So they said, if you're going to come over on this OA visa, we want you to have mandatory health insurance. When they made this announcement, I'll tell you what, this is what the deal was. They say, okay, you're going to have a minimal coverage, which is very small. It's like 40,000, 400,000 coverage, inpatient, outpatient. So they said that. Then they said it's got to be done, the only people who can issue this insurance policy are 8 companies, 8 Thai insurance companies. Okay? Now, keep in mind that you're getting your OA from your home country. You're not even in Thailand yet. Okay? A wrinkle. Then they also said it's only specific policies that are going to be written for this coverage. Okay. Those were all the challenges, and people were up in the arms screaming, and oh my God, what, Thailand doesn't want foreigners anymore, blah, blah. You know the story. If you participate in any forum or you read the YouTube comments, you'll know that people have a lot to say about this. And rightfully so. There's a lot of holes in this. And so I wanted to get some firsthand information, so I traveled to Bangkok and talked to my insurance agent. I have Pacific Cross Insurance, a great insurance company, and I wanted to sit down and say, hey, come on, give me the scoop. What's up with this? And so we sat down, and for, I don't know, about an hour, and I'm not sure, I might edit some of that conversation and put it at the end of this video. So if you want to stick around and watch some of those important distinctions that they made and challenges for them. They had challenges with this whole thing. because there was too many what ifs. And so, like I said, I went to Bangkok, sat down with them, got some great information about this mandatory requirement, and they were one of the 8 companies that were allowed to issue the policy. So that's what the deal is. People that have gotten their OA so far back in their home country haven't had to comply. But I was looking at this going, well, wait a minute, these insurance policies are from companies that are in Thailand. These people aren't even in Thailand. What happens if they have pre-existing illnesses? What happens if they're over a certain age? There's just too many things that just didn't make sense about this. Also, and you'll see if you stick around for the end, Pacific Cross was saying people contacted them, and I'll put a link to my agent in the description, but people contacted them and said, we want policy to cover us for this insurance regulation to get the OA visa. This $40,000, $400,000 coverage, which is minimal, that policy, specific policy for that, to cover for that, was as much as I pay for 10 million baht coverage for 1 year. And so I asked them, Jamie and the managing director, Tom, great guy, at Pacific Cross, what's up with that? How come it's so expensive? And he says, well, because this is a specific policy. That like my 10 million baht policy is in a pool with people of all ages. So there's the cost versus the payout that create the premiums. And so they were explaining that the people that fall within this category, this specific policy, are over 50 years old. They're higher risk. And so that pool is very small, more higher risk, so of course the premiums are higher. All this made a lot of sense to me, but I kept saying none of this makes sense of why they're going to require this, that there's going to be people who can't comply. Okay, there's the backstory for you. So you're probably at this point going, I haven't heard any good news yet. Okay, again, I've got this from very reliable sources, but the caveat is it hasn't been announced, and I'm not going to tell you who the source is because they've asked me not to tell them in case there is some kind of change between now and the time this is announced. But the good news for you all, if you're thinking about getting the OA visa in your home country, as opposed to a retirement extension within Thailand, a couple things to keep in mind. When you go to get your OA in your home country, it's a 1-year visa, but you can get almost 2 years out of it. And I have information how to do that in the member site that I don't want to be too vocal about it because there's a lot of times there's some kind of go around or loopholes or stuff and they get closed up because people talk too much about them. But anyway, this was the deal. You could get almost 2 years out of that. But when it's done, if you're in Thailand, you can't renew it. And even if you're in your home country and it expires, you can't renew an OA. You have to start the process over if you're in your home country and apply again. If you're within Thailand, that visa, the OA, becomes void, and what you end up doing is getting a non-immigrant visa. If you go into the immigration office, show you comply to the requirements, which is now 800,000 either in the bank for a certain period of time, or that you're having income coming in over the period of time that equals the 800,000, about 64,000 baht a month, something like that. If you comply to all that, then what they do is they issue you a non-immigrant visa, 90-day visa, and then you come back in about 80 days or so, and they throw on a 1-year extension on top of it for the purpose of retirement. So there is no renewal of an OA. I just got to get that out of the way. Okay, so the new regulations, if you're going to apply for your OA visa in your home country, you're going to be able to use any policy that you already have in place that meets the minimum amount of coverage. Doesn't have to be from a Thailand company. Okay? So this is the deal. You'll be able to use existing insurance. Also, if you don't have insurance, you can reach out to a company like Pacific Cross and you can ask them to issue you a policy. And you could have a policy like mine, which I only pay like $126 a month for $250,000 worth of coverage per incident per year. So that would also comply. And if you're thinking, well, I'm not in Thailand yet, a company like Pacific Cross, and I can't say this about all the other companies, but they can actually issue you a policy with a Thai address, because you should have a Thai address, and then once you get over here, then you switch it over to your Thai address. So they could issue you a policy and you could have major medical coverage before you even got here. I think you have to get back into Thailand within 6 months or something of you taking out the policy, though. But anyway, they'll issue you a policy. You'd be able to get your OA visa, come to Thailand, switch the address, and you're good to go. So the big distinctions here are that you can use any insurance, even if you have insurance already, and you can use any policy that covers at least the minimum of what they require, which is almost every policy. Keep in mind, when you hear about renewals, there is no renewal. If you wanted to switch from, say, OA and you're in Thailand, you wanted to get what's called OX, which is a 5-year visa plus a 5-year extension. There's a lot of requirements for that. I personally am asked a lot from my members about this, OX. I don't suggest getting it because you have to keep a lot of money in the bank. There's a lot of requirements to it, and I'll put all the requirements down. I don't need to talk to you all about it if you're not interested. But there's a lot of requirements that it's easier just to go get a 1-year extension on a non-immigrant, which takes me about 40 minutes a year to go in and do. I mean, it's a piece of cake, and it's cheap, where you don't have to have millions of baht in the bank and all this other stuff. So anyway, this is gonna be the new regulations from what I've heard, and it should be announced because it's supposed to go into effect sometime in August. So, to recap, before you had to have a specific Thai company issue you your major medical, and it had to be a specific policy. Now, with these new regulations that are going to be announced, hopefully, you're going to be able to use any insurance policy that you have, even a pre-existing one that you have, as long as it meets the coverage. Now, once you get over to Thailand, if you wanted to, you could switch over to a policy over here. But to get that initial OA, you could use your policy back home. So this is really an upside to this because, I mean, some people, it was a big issue. And it was an issue for the insurance company as well. It was an issue for everybody. And so it appears that the Thai authorities have taken this into account. Insurance companies have given them feedback and they've listened, which is a great thing. So I hope this is helpful to you. I'm going to go ahead and leave some information below, and I'll also probably edit onto this some of the conversation I had with the Pacific Cross representatives. And once this goes into effect, if it does, which I'm almost 100% sure it will, then I'm going to reach out to my agent, Jamie, and we'll do a one-on-one conversation and record it for you. And if you have any questions, just email me at retirecheap@gmail.com or use the link, How Can I Help, that's in the description. And just give me the questions, and when I reach out to Jamie and we do a one-on-one conversation, we'll do a Q&A and answer any questions you might have if I can't answer them personally. So again, when it comes to conforming to requirements in Thailand, there's always an option. And some people say Thailand's authorities don't have any flexibility. Well, this appears that they have listened and they have been flexible. So if you like what we're doing, make sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe, and see you in the next video. Check out what's after this. See ya. So, JC here, and today's a special day because we're going to get some information, and we're going to get it with credibility concerning the regulation that they've come out with about mandatory health insurance for retirees living in Thailand. And I made a video about this before, and that was that it actually applies to people applying in their home country for OA visas. It doesn't apply to people that are coming to get an extension in Thailand. But a lot of things get thrown around, a lot of information, but also a lot of questions. And I have questions as well, because I don't understand how somebody with pre-existing conditions are going to be covered when they get up in age, how they're going to get coverage. Well, I'm at Pacific Cross, and we've got Tom Thompson, which is the managing director, and my buddy here, Jamie Connell, who's my agent, and handles most of the policies for foreigners because he speaks such great English. I don't know why. But anyway, but we want to talk to them about some of this, and I let them know I was coming to answer some of these questions. And so they've come up with some brief points that they want to make, but I think it's really, really important to get some information. But keep in mind, no matter what they say, it's as of today. And like anything with Thailand, it can change in a moment's notice. But as we sit right now, there's some points that they want to make that I think are really relevant and should be passed on to the public. And so I wanted to sit with you all and mention my questions, but you might already have those covered anyway. So I would like you all just to speak for a few minutes about what you know up to this point about this regulation, how Pacific Cross is handling this on your end, and any other kinds of things that you want, any points you want to make. So the floor is yours. Have at it.
Well, thank you very much, JC. For Pacific Cross, we registered our name as an approved insurer for the visas. We've already designed 3 plans for the visas and got approval for those. And that's for the OX visa. Mm-hmm. We understand that the same plans will be approved for the OA visa, but right now we have nothing in writing to confirm that.
And for those who don't know what OX is,
the OX is a 10-year or a 5x5 visa.
Plus 5 visa.
Yes, and there are special requirements for that. The OA is called the long stay visa, which is a 12-month visa. Mm-hmm. We've already in the process of submitting some additional plans to get approved to the regulator, but right now we have to wait because the regulator has to examine them and provide the necessary approval.
Okay, so the OX, but the policy coverages that are mandatory are very low. So anybody that actually wanted real insurance, good coverage, that really doesn't help them that much, right? Is that correct?
If you don't mind me answering this one, so since this announcement happened, at the beginning of May, they didn't do a great job in explaining exactly who this mandated insurance applied to. So as a result, we didn't see this coming, and we'd have thousands and thousands of inquiries coming in from people on marriage visas, non-O yearly extensions, and the list goes on. So, what I think this is a really good opportunity and platform is to explain, first of all, because a lot of your guys are retirees. Mm-hmm. This doesn't apply to every retiree. It's only a very particular type of visa. Now, in terms of the coverage, it's not a great amount that they're mandating. So we believe that we've been one of the 6 companies that's approved to sell the plan, but in terms of actually what kind of insurance it is, it doesn't really serve much purpose. 400,000 baht, JC, is not much more than a broken leg, a couple of kidney stones, let alone anything serious. And the trouble that I've had explaining to people is that if you are on a non-OA visa or a non-OX visa and your renewal is imminent, so I'm not a public speaker, so sorry if I'm a bit shy, then unfortunately you are required to get this particular insurance. But if, for example, your renewal for the visa doesn't apply until later on in the year, I have no interest in selling somebody a plan for that coverage. We hope that the government will eventually allow any plan that meets or exceeds that requirement to be suffice to obtain the visa.
But as of now, that's not the case.
As of now, that's not the case, which makes it quite difficult for us when we've got these historic product suites that have really good coverage and they're around the same pricing.
Yeah, that's something to mention.
And are not approved.
And the reason why the pricing is similar, because people are going to say, well, you're just gouging these people because it's opportunistic, but that's not the case.
Not at all.
This is a group of people at age 50 upwards. In fact, the average age is around 63 to less than 76, say 63 to 73. So it's quite a targeted group of people getting these visas, as a consequence, the actuary looks at those, they're a higher risk.
But I'm 62, 63 years old. I don't know how old I am. But anyway, and I have, I don't know, 5 or 10 million coverage, and I'm paying almost the same thing that somebody's going to for 400,000. How does that work out? When the actuary looks at that, how do they compare? Why?
Bear in mind that you're in a pool of people. You've been underwritten, that's one thing. You're in a pool of people from a child of 15 days through to a group up to our eldest policyholder, I think is 81. So you're in a pool of thousands of people. So whereas now we're creating another pool
that's only higher risk.
Only 50 years of age and upwards. So this is a specific pool of people, high risk. So as a consequence, the actuary does the calculations, and that's the reason for the rates.
That makes sense then.
And every insurance company's got the same issue.
Yeah. And just so there's clarification about this, because there's some people that aren't, you're probably becoming a visa expert because of this situation. But for those that don't know, most people that apply or in Thailand come here with some kind of visa, then they convert it over to a non-immigrant visa, which is a 90-day visa, and then on top of that is a 1-year extension put onto that for the purpose of retirement, which is completely different. And at this point in time, this kind of insurance is not applicable to those types of people that are doing that. The regulation specifically at this point says this is for OA visa applicants, and OA you get in your home country. And there's been word to say that once they renew it, they're not going to need it once they're living here. It's only the initial application, which makes, again, there's a lot of these things, points of this that makes no sense at all. And so I just wanted to mention that, and there should be, and you all are waiting for clarification on a lot of these issues. So what are some of the other issues about this, that your distinctions that you made from people contacting you with their situation and what they want to get, as well as what you're hearing from the immigration or from the health department, or whoever you're trying to deal with, the regulators for this. So just,
I mean, there's a lot of different opinions on this. You could speak to one immigration person who says this is happening, and we hear another story on the back end. The trouble that I have is that, a lot of guys are getting in touch, JC, that may be over 75. We're one of the very few companies that can actually insure someone up to 75 through to 99 years of age. There's a lot of insurers in this country that would kick people off at a certain age. You might have people over here that I've spoken to that have got, a wealth of pre-existing conditions. In some cases, we can't even offer cover.
So even with this new coverage?
We fully underwrite. So the problem that these people will have is they may have a number of different conditions that standing alone, we'd be able to cover them with an exclusion or with a loading or with a wait period. But there will be people out there that, retired here that are either over the 75 age group, and we don't know where they're going to get cover. The other problem that we have is that, even we're one of the 6 companies that's been approved. A lot of the other approved companies, you can't even get through to speak to anyone that can give you any answers. So at this juncture, as of today, we are one of the companies that's approved to sell this very particular type of plan. And all people need to do is provide an application, we'll fully underwrite, and then make an offer accordingly. But because we fully underwrite, it will mean that the transparency is on the coverage before they decide whether to take the policy.
I have a question. Okay, this is a hypothetical situation. If somebody's 70 years old, some pre-existing conditions, they need this coverage to get their OA visa. Are they going to have a health checkup in their home country for you to put the coverage? So how would that work?
We'll accept a health check from an overseas medical provider. There's no problem with that. Yes, we'd accept that.
So now,
or a current, one we'll take them up to 3-4 months old. It's not
okay. And then, so 70, they get pre-existing conditions. So there are going to be exclusions from coverage for pre-existing. Is there going to be any issue with that? I mean, is the government, as far as you know, is the government just saying, show us a policy.
This is a box-ticking exercise.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
This is a box-ticking exercise.
They're basically not covered for anything because they've got everything pre-existing, but they have the paper to show they have it, and so they can get the visa. Is that the way it's working?
Well, there's, people will have different pre-existing conditions. Yeah. So if somebody comes to us, so for myself, I've been underwritten. I suffer from gout. So when I took out the policy, it says very clearly on my policy, you're not covered for anything related to gout, but you're covered for everything else. Mm-hmm. So, because we fully underwrite, we look at every person on a case-by-case basis. Now, if somebody's had something kind of very severe, let's say cardiac issues before, diabetes, whatever, our underwriters will look at you individually, and they may say, well, actually, you've got high blood pressure, you've got hypertension. We will load the premium slightly. We won't cover the maintenance of that particular condition, but we will cover the outcome of that particular condition, such as a heart attack or a stroke. That's not something you'll find with any of our competitors, right? But I don't think that the immigration offices are intricate enough to start looking at what is covered or what isn't.
Correct. I believe that an immigration officer will look, one, the logo of the company, the name of the company, because that's on the list of 6,
right,
to make sure that that's there, to make sure the minimum is, an amount is there that it either is the same as or exceeds those minimums provided. And I don't believe for one moment they will consider deductibles. I don't believe they'll consider conditions or exclusions. I just cannot see it, because they're an immigration officer. They're looking to make sure that certain things comply.
That's right.
And I think that's the approach they will take.
So let me ask you a question based on what you just said about it meets the minimum standard. If that was the case, why couldn't you issue them these regular policies, these regular packages that you have that are more than that amount? Why don't those comply? I don't understand that.
Because what we have to do is we have to issue a special certificate. So it's a government has designed the certificate for the OX visa, but we have not received yet the design of the OA visa certificate. So we issue an insurance certificate that will fill in certain blocks.
But why couldn't that certificate be issued along with, say, like the Maxima policy that I have, and you just give the certificate along with the policy because it complies to the requirement?
Possibly, but right now we don't know.
Is that too complicated for somebody who's making these executive decisions within or within the health department? I mean, to me, that's a slam dunk. It makes total sense. Why not have more coverage, better coverage?
Yes. I don't know. Just in answering that, JC, the plans that we issue, the name is a long stay. So the application form they fill out is a long stay application, or an OX. So
special application.
Yeah.
Yes, they're specific.
I'm at a loss, right? Because I've spoken to literally thousands of people in the last 6 weeks, and it doesn't make any sense to me that a guy with a policy with $100,000, $500,000, even $1 million policy, he's on a non-OA visa, and at this juncture, he can't go to the immigration office with $1 million policy and tick that box. It has to be one of these 6 companies' plans that have been approved. As I said,
but there is a possibility, by what you just said, that you be able to present these policies that you have and get them approved at some point or some junction. Is that possible?
That's exactly what we're in the process of.
Yeah.
I mean, what we've said is, first of all, our belief is that 400,000 bahts worth of cover is inefficient. It doesn't really serve any real objective of insurance. And, logic would dictate that eventually the government would say, well, if a plan that's covered in X amount is more than what we've mandated, then that should tick the box.
It should be a slam dunk.
That's not on us. We're waiting and we're motioning for it.
We've designed 3 other plans that we are submitting to them, but whether they will be approved, I don't know. It's really, we're just trying to follow the regulation and try to understand.
Do you have any idea what the approval process is? I mean, what is the determination of whether a policy is going to pass their approval or not? I mean, because my policy that I have, that I pay for, again, more than exceeds their requirement, on what basis would they not approve that? I mean, that would be the question.
Again, we don't know. You know, and it's
I mean, you see, it's for this new these new requirements. It's a new policy that has to be signed off and approved. It is a new premium structure that has to be signed off and approved, just like we do before. But it's another process we have to go through. So each version has to be signed off by the regulator, which is very good, because then people know the plan is an approved plan.
Right.
But it takes time.
What I understand is that people won't have to show it here, only in their home country when they initially apply for the OA or OAX. That's the way I understand. OX, though, you have to continue to have the insurance, but here they...
the gentleman that came in that had a renewal for July was told by immigration he had to have the policy. So again, you know, there's mixed messages going on everywhere.
Right, exactly.
We can only,
which is common here.
Right. So, you know, again, the hope is that plans that have got real coverage would tick that box. Our understanding has changed on a day-to-day basis on the last 5 weeks.
I mean, we just like some clarity as to what, because it's very difficult to keep guessing.
Yeah, it's difficult for you, it's difficult for the people, the applicants, everybody. It's difficult for everybody at this point because of lack of clarification.
Yes. I mean, it would be much easier for them to say, as Jamie had said, if someone's insured and if they're going to limit it to the 6 companies, a policy issued by them with this minimum applies.
It makes total sense to me.
That's fine.
Well, I appreciate you all sitting down and having this conversation. And I know you did come up when I asked you on the phone and told you I would come by and talk about a couple of things. If there's anything else that you wanted to mention before we close this, go ahead and mention it.
I'd like to say this. You know, I'm not going to sit here and try and sell Pacific Cross. I'd ask people to do their own research, look at the different plans that are on the market, whether it's for the long stay visa or whether it's for a real insurance policy. We're here to speak to people. So, I'd like to say that is there's not many companies that are out there that you can actually call up and get some advice. I try to provide the best, advice possible. I'm not here to sell plans just for the selling plan's sake, So, which is why actually the vast majority of people that I've spoken to in the last month, I've said, if your renewal's up in December, I don't want to sell you this policy now because it's not a real insurance policy.
And it could change between now and then as well. And also I want to mention here too, because of the overwhelming amount of people contacting you, I would like to also mention to people maybe have a little more patience than normal for you to get back in touch, because you all are in overwhelm at this point.
At one stage, the lookups on our on our website increased from its daily 250 to 300 by 500%.
500% more.
It caused us
a lot of
great
trouble.
problems.
Yeah, sure.
So JC, what I would like to let people think about who are looking at insurance in Thailand, because you're moving into an older age group, consider taking an annual deductible on a policy. That way you lower the premium, even if you start trying to save the deductible. But my belief is that you can borrow a deductible from a friend or a family member, but you can't borrow the amount of the premium. Like a 5 million, you can't get that.
No.
So in your home country, you may not understand deductibles. You may not be used to deductibles, but you have to give it some thought. A deductible is self-insurance.
Oh, I have a thousand, the equivalent of $1,000 US deductible. I want to say it's what, 40,000, something like that. And I mean, it substantially reduced the premium cost for me, and was well worth it. And of course, you all now have discounted. I've had it a couple years now, and you all have discounted also because I haven't filed any claims. So there is ways to lower the premiums.
Great.
I'm just hoping that they'll be able to take my hope is that people are going to be able to get the kind of coverage I have, and also be able to use that to comply to this requirement.
On Tom's note, I think it's important to say as well, there is a lot of people in this country that don't have any insurance. And they said, some of them have got their self-insuring, they've got money in the bank, and that's great. There's also a segment that are saying, I'm an Englishman, right? The amount of English people that I've spoke to that said, well, if I'm sick, I'll just fly home. people don't remember you have to be medically fit to fly. If you've got anything serious and that doctor can't let you on that plane, what happens then? So at the very minimum, everybody should have some kind of insurance policy sat behind them. And if it's about premium, there's ways that we can lower the premium to make it affordable. And with the product suite we've got, you know, it's not. We've got low, mid, and high-end insurance.
You're probably a good person to ask too, as well, as far as being able to fly back. Don't they have to return back into their home country, into England, for a certain amount of times before they get back in the queue for help?
Well, that's very true. With the NHS, you know, people, don't quote me on this, but my understanding is once you've left the country for 3 months, you're no longer eligible for treatment under the NHS. That said, you know, the hospitals in England won't turn you away. They'll treat you first. And
yeah, I think you do have to reestablish yourself there for a specific amount of time, if I'm not mistaken, and don't hold me to that either. But,
Tracy, yeah. what I'd like people to remember is that while the doctor can say you're medically fit to fly, the chief purser on the aeroplane decides whether he's going to let you on or not. So we've had instances where people have had a stroke, they want to go home to the UK, 2 people want to go home. However, they were incontinent. And as a result of that, the purser would not accept them on an aeroplane. Now those people stayed in Thailand as it was for an excess of 3 months, and one of them had to stay in hospital. And I can tell you the expense, in fact both of them stayed in the hospital, but one of them, the expense was just over $7 million. So
and even if they had enough coverage to stabilize themselves to be able to get back, but again, it's going to be up to the discretion of the chief purser of the plane whether they're going to let them on or not. But just even if they said, well, you can't fly as you are, but you know, we can stabilize you, we need to, and then you can go home if you want to stay there and get coverage. But at least they got to have coverage to get to that point, right?
Just understand, if you don't have coverage and you're not in a position to get home, be prepared that either you're going to, you know, fall by the wayside, or you're going to go into a hospital and going to the doctors for the flu. Yes, Thailand's quite cheap in that respect. Make no mistake, if you go to a private hospital and you're admitted over a length of time, that the bills can get out of hand, and it could be. Tom's seen people that told him they'd get a policy and they didn't. They've ended up having to sell a house or.
Yeah. And we've got vloggers now, and one vlogger in particular that said, oh, I'll get health insurance coverage next year, and he was diagnosed with cancer 1 year before he was going to pick up coverage, and now he's faced with these bills. And so, I mean, all these are issues that need to be considered when people are thinking about insurance, and rightfully so, because now for me, I have about $1,000 deductible. I'm married to a Thai person. I'm completely happy if it's a minor situation, I fall off the motorbike or something, and I'm not, in serious injury, of going to a public hospital where it's very inexpensive and I pay out of my pocket. I have y'all's coverage for either an issue that I need diagnosed properly, which I would feel more comfortable in a private hospital doing with their expertise as opposed to a public hospital, or if I do have a serious illness and I need serious treatment, then I need to opt into the private hospital, and that's when y'all's coverage is going to be a lifesaver. Literally, pun intended.
But the funny thing is, JC, your plan covers you up to 10 million baht, and that's not an aggregate total. That's 10 million baht per condition per year. You're very well protected. Now, some people don't have the capacity to get a plan that covers them up to that much. There is people over here that are retiring cheap. So they might have a plan that will cover them up to 1 million or 3 or 5 million baht. Then you have to be very particular about which places you're using for treatment. So for example, if you've got a plan that covers you up to 1 million baht and you did get cancer, yes, we will all... Here's another point. Because we've fully underwritten, we will pay every single claim that's valid. Whatever people would like to say online, as long as you've declared everything correctly and been truthful on your application, we will honour every single claim that comes out. Furthermore, we won't kick you off at a certain age. We'll renew you through the lifetime. But if you are on a plan that's got a lower level coverage, be careful about which hospitals you're going to. Tom's seen cases before where people have gone in with cancer, they've gone straight to Bumrungrad. It's one of it's a great, great hospital, but it's one of the more expensive ones.
Absolutely.
So we're also here to assist.
You'll burn through the coverage
Very
a lot
quickly.
quicker. That's a good point.
But we're here to
I
help.
never even thought of that.
Right, so, we're here to advise people. So, if somebody's gone into this hospital, Tom's done how many cases where he's called the client and said, I'd advise you to get out of that bed if you're
You're going to
mobile.
burn through your coverage in no time.
Go down to another
Very
treatment
good
provider.
point. And I never thought about that because, I mean, my coverage,
You're fine.
in my handbook, I mean, I can go to basically any name hospital here and have my coverage accepted. And so, but I never thought about as you increase the standard of the hospital, or if they are a medical tourist hospital, which are known for being higher costs, those costs are going to burn through your coverage a lot quicker. That's a very valid point.
And can I just tie that back into the deductible thing that Tom said, is that, although we've got this big, range of products, you'd be so much more better off to get a higher level plan that gives you that peace of mind and do the necessary steps to bring the premium down, whether it's a higher deductible, whether it's the outpatient removal. I can sell a Premier plan that costs X, right? But I can also sell a Maxima or Maxima Plus plan, do some mechanisms to bring down the premium that would have been the same. Exactly.
Premium cost.
So, this always comes down to budget. People usually here are buying on budget. Come to us, speak to us, tell us your requirements, tell us your budget, explain to us your conditions. But again, we try and be as transparent on our offer letters before anybody's made a decision or taken the policy out. Most other companies, very easy application, very easy to pay, but they know nothing about you. And it's only when you're sick that they will investigate the condition. And that is why, when you think you're covered for something, and in fact you're not, because they didn't know you were on blood pressure tablets or whatever, the insurance company doesn't want to pay.
Then they don't file. They don't pay the claim because it was pre-existing, even though you didn't. They know it's pre-existing, even though.
What people have to understand is that when you think you're going to die, you tell the doctor 110% of the truth. When you discover that you're not dying, the truth is diluted. So that's when an insurance company finds out. Because they get the medical records in, read it and say, you've had this treatment before. And I say to people, be honest. Don't say, I forgot. I mean, most people know whether they've had a mini stroke, they've had an MRI in a hospital before, they've had a back problem, whatever, they know it. Tell the insurance company right at the start.
Yeah, be honest up front, because they don't want any unexpected surprises where all of a sudden they have a bill that they have to pay because you all find out that they had pre-existing conditions that they didn't disclose to you all.
It just wastes a whole lot of time for the insurance company having to check on it. It's easy to say, well, just pay the bill. But you pay the bill for genuine claims. You don't pay the bill for claims that are not genuine.
Yeah. Well, if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and close it. I just do want to say thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me and answer these questions, because my members are always, I'm fielding questions. And I'm not an insurance company. I have no knowledge like you all have. I do have knowledge about the visa end of it and all that. But when it comes to coverages and all this and what you're being told by the government and by these regulating agencies, I didn't have a clue. And I thought, okay, we need to make some clarifications here for the YouTube viewers and put all this out there. And if they have any other questions, that they can contact you. But this is like... There seems to be people in the YouTube community that don't believe anything anybody says. And they might not even believe you. I mean, these people are just, it's funny at this point. But the people that are serious and concerned about this issue, now they've got some real information. I think that's really valuable. So I want to thank you all.
We're always a call or an email away, as I said. The underwriting is important. Thank you so much.
So I hope this has been helpful. I hope it's been informative. And if you have any other questions, I'm going to put a link in the description to where you can contact Jamie directly, and he'll field questions. Again, have a little patience. They are in overwhelm at this point. But hopefully, and contact me too. If any clarification comes out or any changes, please let me know, and I'll pass it on, or we'll come back in and sit down again. And if there's a clear-cut distinction that we need to know about.
I think, because obviously, just on the last point, in the coming months, we'll also be taking on some other professionals that can speak multiple languages, German, Italian, French, Japanese. So we're there to help, you know, and we're there to be as helpful as possible. Despite what these people will say online, we're not here to just sell a plan for the sake of it. We're trying to do the right thing for the right reason. All right?
Good. Well, thanks again. And even when it comes to complying with insurance regulations nowadays, there's always an option. And again, they even mentioned make sure to do your homework and find out what you're going to need to comply to, and then reach out into the different companies. Pacific Cross is one of the ones that have been approved, but reach out to them and see what they offer and as far as the service. And but I definitely say check out the Pacific Cross. I think it's one of the best companies out there.
Thank you.
And that's why I have insurance with you all. So thanks again for your time.
Cheers.
And we'll be in touch. And there you go. Hope it's been helpful, and see ya. Hey, JC here. My goal is always to help you get from where you are now to where you want to be, which is probably a life in Thailand. And I know a lot of questions come up about all sorts of things regarding insurance and vehicles, transportation, housing, relationships, getting licenses, all that stuff. And I want to help you by answering as many questions as I can. And if I can't answer them, then I'll reach out to you personally. But I'm going to leave a link in the description to where you can click on that and be able to tell me what it is that you're interested in, what kind of information, and I'll be able to try and answer it, because I'm probably not going to be able to answer it within the YouTube comments anymore because of time constraints. It's just getting to be too much of a task to go through all the comments. So if you have a question, direct it to me. There'll be a link in the description, and I'll be back in touch with you to try and get as much relevant information to you as I can. Remember, when it comes to getting the information you need about retiring in Thailand, there's always an option. See you, JC out. Hey, JC here. If you like that video, make sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel here. Also, we have another video up here you're going to be really interested in watching as well. And if you're looking for all the details of how to retire in Thailand in one place, plus a group of people to support you, check this out over here. Give it a click.